Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Friday. This is Seattle Now. Most of Washington's congressional delegation voted to impeach President Trump this week. More people can get a vaccine. Gyms opened back up just a tiny bit, and we got about 10 weeks worth of rain in 13 days. KUOW's Casey Martin and Seattle Times food writer Tan Vinh are here to break down the week. First, let's get you caught up. The Department of Education has opened a federal investigation into Seattle public schools. A letter sent this week from the department's Office of Civil Rights to Superintendent Denise Juneau mentions disturbing reports about how special education students have been treated during the pandemic. Some of that reporting done by KUOW. State education officials have urged districts to provide in-person instruction to students with disabilities, but fewer than 100 students in Seattle are getting that help. The district says it will comply with the investigation. An effort to provide a safe location for drug users to inject heroin with nurse supervision has had another setback. Justices from the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled this week that a heroin consumption site in Philadelphia couldn't open because it would violate federal drug laws. The plan for safe injection sites here has the blessing of the city and county health officials. The council even pledged $1 million to back it, but the ruling puts all that on hold. And Seattle-based Alaska Airlines is tightening security on flights to and from the D.C. area ahead of next week's presidential inauguration. Starting today, they'll book fewer seats, temporarily ban checked firearms, and require passengers to stay seated an hour after takeoff and before landing. They're also stepping up enforcement of their mask policy after a rowdy group caused problems on a flight from D.C. to Seattle last week. Here we are at the end of another anxious week in America. In Seattle, the winds kicked up and the rain came down. Thousands lost power, and for the most part, Zoom school was canceled. KUOW reporter Casey Martin is here. Casey, you were down in Olympia reporting at the state capitol this week. Give me your best pro tip for being out there reporting in the rain.
I want one of those ponchos that the cops have. They're awesome. I've never seen. I don't know where you get those, but that's my pro tip. I want to find whatever Capitol Police have. Right. They look pretty good out there in the rain.
All right. Tan Vinh is here, too. He's a food and drink writer at the Seattle Times. Hey, Tan, did you lose power this week?
I was very fortunate. I did not. That was amazing.
Yeah. Did you hear that wind, though?
How can you not? It kept me up all night.
It was a historic week. President Trump was impeached again, the only U.S. president with this distinction. 9 out of 10 members of Washington's congressional delegation voted to impeach the president. Cathy McMorris Rodgers, the only holdout from Washington state. Tan, thoughts about this week?
You know what? You guys are news junkies, so I'm sure you got the news alert on Tuesday night, and that was when Representative Jamie Herrera Butler became the 5th GOP House member to support impeachment. And everyone made a big deal because she was the 5th. 5 was a big number or something. And I'm like, 5? Really? Only 5 of you after what happened on the Capitol? And what makes it worse is like the final number was only 10 Republicans. So I was pretty distraught.
Casey, you were out there working this week in Olympia reporting about security concerns outside the state capitol, and this was before the vote, but it very much factored into the mood out there in front of the Capitol, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Emotions are high. Yeah, there's a lot of frustration. And then, to see the security concerns that we saw at the Capitol in D.C., of course, people are still just kind of reevaluating, where do we go on from here? How do we continue supporting this movement? No matter who you are, it's been a wild week, and definitely people definitely reassessing security concerns at places that we never really thought too much about. We just always kind of assumed that they were always on lockdown. State capitals, obviously the U.S. Capitol. But I mean, I've never seen as much, National Guard and law enforcement at a state capitol as I did just this other day. And
Casey, were you all souped up? Armed
with
vests?
We try to go in prepared for anything, and particularly with crowds that have targeted journalists. We knew that particular groups that don't like the mainstream media, as they call us, they don't want to be presented, on the radio. The Olympian was reporting that when there was a security breach, the Wednesday before, these local journalists were threatened. Somebody told an Olympian reporter that I'm going to come back and shoot you. So yeah, absolutely. We came in bulletproof vest. We had a helmet, a tactical helmet, and also a gas mask. And that's in case police do use tear gas or pepper spray. Absolutely. We go in prepared for the worst.
Yeah, and I would also tell listeners, you should Google your state capital. And I guarantee you, more likely than not, what you will see is a picture of armed guards, National Guards, guarding your state capital, whatever hometown you're from. Mm-hmm. And usually when you see that image, it's usually in the world section or the international section of the newspaper, and it's usually about a strongman, a coup, or a war zone. And guess what? That is now the front page picture of every hometown newspaper. That's the new world we're living in. How scary is that?
This is America.
Yeah. I went down the rabbit hole and I started reading all the stories about people who got arrested. And it's frightening because if you read their bio and their backstory, it's not just the alt-right. It's like, these could be my neighbors. You know, this could be anyone. I don't say this lightly, and it's not exaggeration, but I literally almost threw up when I saw it on TV. I mean, for me, as a refugee from a war-torn country, it just brought back this visualization. Like, oh my God, this looked like the country I left. This looked like Vietnam in the last 2 weeks before the communists took over, the chaos and everything. And for a whole week, I didn't realize why I was thinking about all these images of refugees and all my relatives who were like imprisoned by the communist regime. And I realized, oh, it's because of that image that I saw on CNN. It wasn't just a protest.
Pramila Jayapal crouched, right, in the House gallery looking over there. Now she's infected with coronavirus, with COVID, and she's positive she got it in the room where she was sequestered with other members of Congress, where it was clear that they were not wearing masks.
Yeah, and she's one of 3 members that we know of now who got the coronavirus.
Casey, you're going to be on duty next week, I'm sure. What are you watching for at the state capitol?
Thankfully, you know, what we saw just the other day, I've never seen the Capitol like that. I spoke with our colleague, Austin Jenkins. He works on the Capitol grounds. He can look right out there. And in his years of experience, he had never seen anything like that. And I do think that show of force did deter a lot of people from showing up. I interviewed right-wing groups that decided to cancel their planned protest because they saw the National Guard troops and decided they weren't willing to get involved with potential violence. We're definitely seeing there's plenty of still planned meetups. You know, people this Sunday, people are planning to, they say, peacefully assemble, and then Inauguration Day, we're going to see more groups for sure.
And Casey, every time I feel like, hey, hope, where things will get better, I remind myself that there are like nearly 140 House Republicans who voted to challenge the election results. That's, to me, again, I'm not naive. I understand how politics work, and you have to, you know, work to your base and constituency, but gosh, 140, near 140. That's crazy.
All right, one last thing before we go. There's a lot going on, so you may have missed this. Gyms reopened in Washington State this week. It's pretty restricted. You got to make an appointment before you go, and they're only allowing 1 customer per room. Tan, you're a runner. Would you head back to the gym?
I will not. But you know what? I don't think the numbers will work. I understand that gyms are not restaurants, but they're going to face the same challenge as a restaurant, and that is the math, the economic math on this will not work up or add up, I should say. Because, I mean, you need staffing, you need, like, overhead, turning the power on, and you need to sanitize the room. That costs money. And I don't think it's, just like restaurants have figured this out, you're not going to make money during the winter when you have all these bans on indoor and limited seating. You're better off just closing and waiting till spring when things get better. So I don't think this is going to make any sense to a lot of gyms.
I need to get out in the snow, man. Casey, what about you? I bet you're getting out.
Well, thankfully, going to gyms wasn't a problem for me beforehand, so that's not going to be, I don't need to worry about that. Everyone's like, oh, gyms reopened. I was like, I didn't know. I would have no idea. I'm with you, Trish. I love snow. It was like exactly, I think to the day this time last year that we got one of our January snowstorms. As long as people are safe, I kind of love it when the city kind of quiets down. Of course, we've all kind of been quieted, hunkered down. But I love snow. So I'm kind of waiting for, to hopefully get out into the mountains and get some clear, crisp air in my lungs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's all hope for snow.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, right? Because the Seahawks lost, and like, what are you going to do on weekends now? So there you go.
That's our show. We're leaving it there. Thanks again to my guest, Casey Martin. He's a reporter here at KUOW, and Tan Vinh. He's a food and drink writer for the Seattle Times. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trish.
Seattle Now is produced by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Clare McGrane, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you Monday.